Hey, what's up everybody? It's Harmless Rebel and I'm back with another heavy metal album review. This time we're going to be discussing Manilla Road's new album, The Blessed Curse. Let's start off with Manilla Road. Manilla Road is a band that's been together since the late 70s. I believe they got together in 77 or 78. Released their first album in 1980. And they've been putting out albums pretty steadily ever since. They did take a break between, I think, 95 and 98 or 99. I've read different things, whether they split up or whether they were just taking a break. But regardless, since 1980, they've been putting out solid albums. And I would say 4 or 5 of those are really classic metal albums. They've just they've never broke into the mainstream, and it's one of those things I've never really understood. They've always been an amazing band, not just musically, lyrically. They're really good at telling stories. The guitar work that Manilla Road has is flawless. Their guitars are amazing, and they've just been a killer metal band, And I guess on the side, I guess I can kind of see why they've remained in the underground. It's not a they're not a mainstream sounding band. They experiment with sounds, with soundscapes a lot, which you'll hear in this album. I'll get to that in a second. But they do a lot of concept, tell stories, and they do a really good job of doing it. They always have. And this album is no different. Now, we can discuss the validity of the story later on, but this album just starts off, and it's really a beautiful album. It's still heavy metal, still hard rock. The guitar work in this thing is amazing, though. This is one of my favorite albums, guitar-wise, from Manilla Road. It's funny, as I was listening to it, especially on the 3rd song and the 4th song, which are Tomes of Clay, which is actually my favorite song on this album, and then The Dead Still Speak, which is up there as well. There's almost I want to say Tolkien-esque sound to the music, but that's not correct. The reason I use that term is because in the 70s, there were cartoons released of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and the music in the background kind of reminds me of the guitar work that you hear in this album. And when you listen to it, if you've seen those movies, you'll kind of understand what I'm saying. But the guitar, beginning to end in this album, is just beautiful, and it's kind of a cool mix of this really beautiful guitar with the heavy drums and the bass lines, and the storytelling, as with most of their albums, is pretty much spot on. They do such a good job of just telling the story. The story of this album is basically that all religion basically comes from Sumeria, and that's kind of a popular notion right now. You hear a lot of people and talking heads on the internet. There's a lot of web pages set up where they talk about what they say they call it the fact, but they say the fact is that most Judaism and of course followed by Christianity, all the beliefs and all the stories of those two religions are basically stolen from the Gilgamesh story and the Sumerian belief system, and also stolen from the Egyptian belief system. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that. While there are some similarities, especially in the aspect of the flood, I will say I did a lot of religious study in college, and I'm not saying Christian study. It was general religious studies where we studied all the different groups, and like I said, there are similarities in the stories, especially with the flood. But almost every civilization has a flood story, where animals were put into a boat, and but there are significant differences in all of the creation stories, especially between the Jewish creation story and the Sumerian creation story. Outside of the flood, there's not a whole lot of similarities. Kind of the entire thesis of this album is not really based on. It's not really historically accurate. And I went into this knowing I had read that this was the basic premise behind this album, but it doesn't change how well this album was written and how good this album is. Again, as I mentioned, Tome of Clays is definitely the strongest song on this album. The Dead Still Speak is beautiful as well, as is The Muse's Kiss. The weakest songs, and I don't really want to call them weak because the music is spot on every single song, and the lyrics are spot on. It's just I don't like the way the lyric match. I just don't think it matches the music on Luxiferia's Light or Sword of Hate. The vocals just don't match the music for me. Other than that, I would call this a flawless album if not for those two issues that I have, and I gave this a number of spins. I think I've listened to this 6 times now, and it's one of those things where I thought I would get used to it after a couple of spins, but even after 6 spins, when it gets to those 2 songs, something about that mismatch just it kind of catches me and throws me off. So outside of that, again, flawless album. This album is amazing. I highly recommend you pick it up. Now, the CD version, it's a double CD. It also comes with After the Muse, which is a second disc of bonus material. The bonus material on here is amazing as well. And I'll get to the highlight of it. And the highlight of the bonus material is actually the highlight of the whole set. But there are, let me count them real quick. We've got, make sure I get it right, 1, 2, 3, 4 acoustic songs, which are all amazing, all beautiful. And then kind of the highlight of this second CD, and actually one of the highlights of the entire package, is All Hallows Eve. They basically ran across an old rehearsal song from 1981 and threw that on here. And it's a 10.5-minute song that just comes to an abrupt end. And what kind of happened was they found this song, but they didn't find the entire tape. The tape that they have actually cuts off, and it's a really cool song. Right when you get into it, or you're into it, you're jamming along, and all of a sudden it just cuts off. So what they did is they said, "Hey, let's take that song, let's bring back our drummer from 1981, and let's re-record it." And that's what they did. And it's a 15-minute, just an amazing song, beginning to end. Again, highly recommend this. I'm going to say 4.5 out of 5 stars. Again, if it wasn't for that inconsistency on those 2 songs, this would be 5 stars all day long. This is my favorite album of the year so far. I have a feeling come the end of the year, this one will still be in my top 5. Like I said, even though there's inconsistencies in the actual thesis of the album, they still do a great job. It doesn't take away my enjoyment of the album. Highly recommend this. It's out on double CD. I read that it was supposed to be released on double vinyl as well. I've looked everywhere. I can't find the double vinyl version of it, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye out on that, and I'll buy it on vinyl as soon as it comes out. But definitely keep your eyes out for The Blessed Curse and Manilla Road in general. Like I said, Manilla Road is just an amazing band. All of their albums going back to 1980 have been awesome. This is number 17. Technically, it's number 18. However, one of those albums was a Mark Sheldon solo album that they later rebranded as Manilla Road to sell. And that was Circus Maximus, if I remember correctly. But 17 albums, and I haven't heard them all. I've probably heard about 10 of those, and I really enjoy all of them. This is probably in my top 3 or 4 Manilla Road albums, so very, very good album. Please pick it up. So the next album I'm going to be reviewing is the new, actually let me look, because I'm drawing a blank. is the new Enforcer album from Beyond. I hope to have that review posted Monday or Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm also, I picked up a copy of the new Enslaved album in Times, so I hope to have that one out next week as well. So other than that, take care everybody, and I'll see you soon.